the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
The Chicago Bears get more good news on one of their top free agent targets going into the offseason. Plus, Ben Johnson continues to add another experienced coach to his coaching staff. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, make sure you do me another huge favor, but also hit the like button on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. So once again, Bears fans, we have a packed episode on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. First and foremost, starting off with some Chicago Bears coaching news. The Chicago Bears have hired Richard Smith as linebacker coach, and this was according to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune. Once again, this is another very experienced coach that Ben Johnson has added to his coaching staff, coaching for 30 plus years. One of Richard Smith's stops included with the Denver Broncos in 2011, where he actually worked with new Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. So there's that connection there between Dennis Allen and Richard Smith. Richard Smith spent the last 3 seasons with the Colts and also coached the linebackers with both the Raiders and the Chargers over the previous 5 seasons, and also has stints as a defensive coordinator in the National Football League for the Falcons, Texans, and the Dolphins. So once again, Richard Smith has a wealth of experience working in many different places. And once again, that connection with Dennis Allen really sealed the deal for Ben Johnson to bring Richard Smith on as the linebackers coach on his coaching staff here in Chicago. So once again, another solid hire for Ben Johnson's coaching staff. Now moving on to some more coaching news for the Chicago Bears. The Bears are actually also parting ways with strength and conditioning coach Jim Arthur, and this is also according to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune. And when you look at a guy like Jim Arthur, between 2006 and 2024, he had 2 stints with the Chicago Bears. The only time he left was, I believe, between 2016 and 2021, where he worked as a strength and conditioning coach with the Miami Dolphins. This was a highly respected guy within Hallis Hall. I know he had a lot of strong connections. I know the players liked him as well. But Ben Johnson wanted to go in a different direction and bring in a new strength and conditioning coach, and rightfully so. When you look at Jim Arthur's time as the strength and conditioning coach with the Chicago Bears, and during the past 3 seasons, the Chicago Bears had 24, 15, and 13 players that actually ended up on their injury reserve. And once again, when you look at these nagging injuries as well, like when you're looking at guys like when we had Nate Davis, he had those nagging injuries. When you look at Tevin Jenkins and his nagging injuries, and even Braxton Jones and his nagging injuries as well, you start to look at the strength and conditioning coach a little bit more, and you have to understand that one of the duties for the strength and conditioning coach is to keep these guys in shape and making sure that their bodies can withstand a very long and brutal NFL season. And that's something that Jim Arthur wasn't really able to do consistently, because we keep seeing these nagging, consistent injuries on the Chicago Bears roster. So now you look at also when you're looking at the strength and conditioning coach and where how the Bears are also not winning in the trenches as well. The Bears were the last couple of seasons constantly getting pushed around, not only in the offensive line, but the defensive line as well. And once again, you start looking at the strength and conditioning coach. So now Ben Johnson is hoping to bring in someone that can hopefully help mitigate those injuries a little bit, while also getting these guys stronger and more prepared for a long, brutal season in the National Football League. So even though some people may think this is not really a big deal, I think this is a big move for Ben Johnson, wanting to bring in his own guy. Maybe he goes and looks at the Detroit Lions assistant strength and conditioning coach. I know there's a strength and conditioning coach in Miami that he has connections with as well. But all in all, I think this is also going to be a low-key, very important hire for Ben Johnson's coaching staff. So I'll make sure to keep you guys up to date on when they do eventually hire a new strength and conditioning coach for the Chicago Bears. Now moving on to some more good news. That's Chicago Bears get some good news on one of their top free agent targets, and that is right guard Trey Smith. Obviously, as we all know, Trey Smith is preparing for yet another Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. But after he's done with the Super Bowl, he is set to become a free agent. agent. And there's been a lot of question marks on if, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to let him walk. And if they do let him walk and he hits free agency, will the Chicago Bears be interested? And according to Bill Zimmerman of the Windy City Gridiron, he basically put those concerns to rest by saying this. Someone asked him on X and was saying, hey, Bears free agent targets, ? And Bill Zimmerman responded with this: better have Trey Smith at the top of their list. I think they do, and I think KC does let him go. And once again, Kansas City Chiefs cannot pay everyone. I know for the last couple of years, Patrick Mahomes will restructure his contract, and then they're able to sign a couple other guys, to keep their offense intact. But I think that they're going to allow Trey Smith to hit free agency. And he is going to be a hot commodity during this free agent period for multiple NFL teams. Trey Smith will have plenty of suitors during this free agency cycle. So the Chicago Bears are going to have to come with their A game. You look at teams like the New England Patriots. They have a boatload of cap space and also a young quarterback to protect in Drake May. So they're kind of in the same situation and scenario as the Chicago Bears. And when you really think about it, Trey Smith is probably going to want $22+ million per year, which will probably make him one of the top, if not the top paid guard in the National Football League. And he definitely deserves it. This is a guy that has been a force for the Kansas City Chiefs, ever being drafted in the 6th round in the 2021 NFL draft. Really been a catalyst for that Kansas City offensive line as they are currently in a dynasty and looking for their 3rd straight Super Bowl championship. So Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson all understand that they have to go out and swing for the fences. You have a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams on a rookie contract. You have about $69-70 million to spend, and that number can definitely go up with a couple of cuts. But Trey Smith has to be the priority for the Chicago Bears. The only thing I don't know at this point is if Trey Smith will be interested in the Chicago Bears. We understand that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to most likely let him walk and hit free agency. We know that the Chicago Bears are going to make Trey Smith one of their number one priorities and to really, help the interior of this offensive line and this offensive line as a whole and to help protect Caleb Williams. But will Trey Smith actually be interested in the Chicago Bears? Once again, Trey Smith is going for his 3rd straight Super Bowl championship with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, at this point in his career, Trey Smith is looking to be paid. He's looking to be probably one of the highest paid NFL guards in NFL history. And right now, that could be a little bit of a disadvantage for the Chicago Bears. Once again, the Chicago Bears have the 4th most cap space in the National Football League, but there's teams out there that have more cap space, like the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, I think, currently have like $120 million in cap space. And I think they're also going to push very hard for Trey Smith. So if Trey Smith is all about the money, which I could imagine that he wants to get paid, right? He could definitely lean probably more towards the New England Patriots. But when you really break it down, Trey Smith definitely has more connections with the Chicago Bears. Once again, Ryan Poles in 2021, when he was a part of that Kansas City Chiefs front office, he was on the forefront of really helping the Kansas City Chiefs and really directing them towards drafting Trey Smith in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL draft. So obviously that connection between Trey Smith and Ryan Poles is there. And then, of course, the Chicago Bears just hired Eric Bieniemy as their running backs coach under Ben Johnson's coaching staff. If you guys remember, Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs for a couple of seasons, and he got the opportunity to coach Trey Smith. So obviously there's a connection between Trey Smith and Eric Bieniemy. And then another underlining connection between Trey Smith and the Chicago Bears is Darnell Wright went to the University of Tennessee and played with Trey Smith for 2 seasons while at Tennessee. So I think the Chicago Bears definitely have the connections to make Trey Smith feel comfortable in his transition to the Chicago Bears if he actually hits free agency and he chooses the Chicago Bears. And of course, the Bears also have a lot of cap space as well. Not as much as the New England Patriots, but they still have the 4th most cap space in the National Football League going into this offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see if Trey Smith actually wants the Chicago Bears, how he views the Chicago Bears. I do think the Chicago Bears should have the leg up, even though the Patriots have more money than more money than us. I think we have the better quarterback in Caleb Williams. I think we have the better coach in Ben Johnson. And obviously the connections between Eric Bieniemy and Ryan Poles, I think, are all huge selling points for a guy like Trey Smith. And of course, when you look at the Chicago Bears situation, we desperately need interior offensive line help. The Bears, suffered 67 sacks on Caleb Williams in his rookie year, which is definitely no bueno. So hopefully Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears can get this done this offseason. But I think this is very good news that it's leaning towards the Kansas City Chiefs letting Trey Smith walk. And it's also very good news that the Chicago Bears have their priorities straight, that they're also highly interested in bringing Trey Smith to Chicago once free agency opens up in March. So overall, Bears fans, I just wanted to come on here really quick and give you guys a couple of updates on the Chicago Bears, some coaching news, and obviously some free agency news as well. And I also wanted to add, just to throw it in here on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I'm not sure if you saw what Saquon Barkley had to say on opening night when he was talking to the media. He basically broke Bears fans' heart by saying that he was pretty damn close in signing with the Chicago Bears last offseason. Obviously, that's a gut punch, but I think he made the right choice. He's in the Super Bowl right now. The Philadelphia Eagles have clearly the better offensive line, and the Chicago Bears don't, right? So he made the right choice, but it's still a gut punch to hear that he was strongly considering being a Chicago Bear, and it just didn't work out. But once again, I wish Saquon Barkley the best of luck as he's trying to claim his first Super Bowl championship this Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. But overall, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for an all new Bears podcast right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the Mic.